Alright, so you're wondering which champion you have to ban if you want to climb. Well, that's a good question, and today we're answering just that. What's going on, ProGuides fam? I'm Kangas, and I'm running you through the 10 most dangerous champions that you have to ban on patch 11.15. Everyone gets a ban, and if you're especially lost on who to use it on, don't worry, because we got you covered in this video, so hit that sub button and let's get into it. So I'm just going to dig right into it and start by saying that you need to ban Irelia. If you're a top laner and you're not playing her, you gotta take her away from your opponent. This champion is not okay, and the nerf she recently received definitely will not be enough to push her out of the meta. By design, Irelia is just a solo Q queen. She's got insane damage, mobility, and even sustain in an extended fight. So many players still neglect healing reduction, and it can really sting when she manages to clutch a fight while hanging on to just a sliver of health. But the biggest reason that you should ban Irelia is the combination of her mobility as well as her damage. Aside from just being an immense teamfight threat, Irelia players snowball hard and can easily take your own top laner out of the game. The fact that she can dash 2 times, 3 after level 6 by the way, means that players who are already behind are left unable to farm. Their own minion wave poses a threat to them, and the bleeding gets harder and harder to stop, because a fed Irelia can easily 1v2 or even 1v3 when teammates come by and try to save the day. Dealing with champions like Irelia can be incredibly frustrating, but if you like challenges though and want to either learn her or take her head on, make sure to check out our website ProGuides.com. We got plenty of coaches who love to help you learn how to play or play against any champion, and also we got courses by pros like Aframu and Core JJ, so go check it out if that sounds interesting. Now our next pick that you gotta consider banning is Kayle. Most of us hate nothing more than our team throwing the game, letting it stall out, and then getting outscaled. Not only is that frustrating, but it's also extremely time-consuming, which means it's even more annoying since you end up losing after 40 minutes instead of a 20-minute forfeit. Without a coordinated effort, Kayle is able to eventually outscale anyone. Her late game is monstrous because of her high damage output, as well as the fact that she has one of the strongest ultimates on the entire 150-plus champion roster. If you yourself main jungle, I heavily suggest banning Kayle, not only for the enemy team, but for your own as well. Well, unless you're duoing with the Kayle player. Kayle requires a decent amount of resources. You don't have to pitch a tent for them, but you need to give them enough support that they don't end up useless. Now, especially in solo queue where things can get a little chaotic, you want to be able to adapt. In some cases, you end up having to sit bottom and camp for them, leaving your top lane to fend for themselves. Kayle, especially against high-level players, can be rather dangerous, and it can honestly be burdensome to have them on your team. That said, playing against Kayle is equally as daunting as you're put on a timer. If you're unable to shut down Kayle early or build a sizable lead elsewhere, the game is already in the enemy team's favor. Now, in spite of some nerfs, Xin Zhao remains a top-tier pick. He's just a straightforward and relentless jungler to play against. Part of what makes Xin so strong is the fact that there's almost no room to outplay his crowd control. He presses E to close the gap, then taps Q for 3 fast attacks, ending with a knock-up. If you flash away, he flashes after you. Suddenly, you're flashless and probably dead anyways, meaning that you're vulnerable to then repeat ganks. Regardless of whether he remains in your lane or not though, the threat of a follow-up Xin Zhao gank is oppressive enough, and players are forced to play extremely safe when they're down summoner flash. And that's part of what makes him a solid pick in both high and lower elos. Although easy champions are typically considered ill-suited for high elo, this is definitely not the case for Xin Zhao. The fact that his ganks are so effective allows him to thrive in spite of a one-dimensional playstyle. He can actually pull off playing for jungle pressure and building leads in a single lane. And in low elo, you can more easily pick up free kills, build damage, and proceed to carry teamfights once you're fed enough. Now, especially if you're in high elo, Leblanc is a pick that you need to watch out for. She's notoriously safe as well as pretty tricky. Her W acts as both a form of mobility and a way to outplay opponents. And yeah, good luck camping LeBlanc players as well, because they'll just W away and even cast it a second time with their ultimate if once isn't good enough. But her W also acts as a way to close the gap. 2 dashes can always get her in range for a chain, potentially leading up to a follow-up by a teammate. Like other assassins, LeBlanc's burst damage allows her to snowball hard if she gets a lead. Bursting down squishies is no problem, and that includes both her laner and usually an enemy marksman. Her mythic item, Luden's Tempest, had its price reduced a few patches ago, and that sparked a massive increase in her win rate. The fact that LeBlanc can deal so much damage while also being as mobile as she is merits her as a must-ban. While it's never fun to play against any Smurf, playing against a smurfing LeBlanc can be one of the most frustrating experiences you can possibly have playing League, and we know Smurfs are all over the place right now. So this also seems like a good place for our question of the day. What class do you currently think is the strongest in the game? Now, assassins are the most annoying for me, but I personally think that fighters are amazing at the moment. They've received nothing but buffs for several patches now, and it's starting to show. Many of them not only have high damage, but also incredible dive pressure, and playing against a fed one really sucks, since they're usually just unkillable as well. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's continue on with these must bans. Now, another pick that's on the rise is Kassadin. Equally as frustrating as somebody like Leblanc, there's a completely different set of reasons to ban him. Kinda like Kayle, he's just a ticking time bomb, and if you can't set him behind, oh boy, things are gonna get rough. He is arguably the most mobile mid laner in the game, especially after level 16 when his ultimate's cooldown drops to 2 seconds. It is absolutely ridiculous. He can blink every 2 seconds, and his damage is also off the charts by then. AP mid laners are becoming more and more popular, especially if you plan on playing one, you need to ban Kassadin. The reason why is Kassadin also acts as a soft counter to lots of the popular AP assassins in the mid lane. He can trade evenly against most of them, since a lot of them are melee champions, and he also will outscale them eventually. Any lane that's not ridiculously skewed against him is basically a win in his book. One of the strongest tools in Kassadin's arsenal is Azonia's Hourglass, as he can blink in, look for a target to blow up, and then enter stasis with the item. This stalls for some time, allows his team to do some work after, and then he can blink out safely, waiting for another opportunity to jump in. Alternatively, he looks to just make another aggressive play at the end of stasis. Kassadin is an excellent team fighter and split pusher come to mid and late game, and although he's not known for taking turns quickly, he is known for nearly being impossible to catch. It's so difficult to deal with an enemy champion that you can't 1v1 or catch out in the side lane. Now, a marksman that players should be afraid of is Vayne. She's self-sufficient, and tanks are also gaining popularity at the moment. With the introduction of Hullbreaker as well as Anathema's Chains, tanks have a lot more agency in their games. Luckily, Vayne's high DPS output as well as mobility make her a solid answer to both tanks as well as divers. The only issue is her lack of wave clear and the fact that the laning phase can sometimes be difficult. The reason you want to be on the lookout for Vayne is that the meta is pretty good for her right now. Plenty of popular picks, notably Ezreal, end up as a free farm lane for Vayne, and since she's so well equipped, Vayne is easily one of the best champions to carry solo queue games with. You don't need that much support from your team, and you can look to make plays on your own terms. When you play against one, this can prove to be troublesome later in the game. Your divers or tanks are going to have a really hard time hunting her down because Vayne's ultimate, Q, and E make her a very difficult champ to pin down. If you can't catch her on an initial engage, she continues to safely rack up damage and tumble away from danger when it approaches. Now, similar to Vayne, there's another aggressive marksman that might be worth banning as well. Samira is another self-sufficient marksman that can easily take over games when ahead. Similar to Vayne, she's just a champion that players struggle bursting down. She can really turn up in a fight once she activates her ultimate, and as long as she has some lifesteal built, this also acts as a sort of comeback mechanic. A fight might almost be lost, but you jump in and shut enemies down, all while benefiting from an immense amount of healing. The fact that her W can act to break projectiles is also insane. Abilities as impactful as Nami ultimate can be stopped with a single button. This not only makes her annoying to play against, but it also forces players to adapt in very specific ways. You can't always rely on your teammates to adjust accordingly, and your own teammates might continue making the same old mistakes. Especially in a close, chaotic fight, Samira's W might be the last thing that comes to mind, and then suddenly, she blocks a crucial ability and the fight is lost. There's plenty of reasons to ban Samira, and you shouldn't feel bad about expending one on her. Now, we mentioned Lulu last time, but come on, let's be real. If she's good enough for me to climb on, she's good enough for anybody to climb on. They even nerfed Thresh, so she's going to be even more annoying now. And honestly, you can probably ban her for her laugh alone. That's a good enough reason for me, but hey, I got more to tell you still. Her utility is absolutely insane. Lulu's W is a versatile buff that doubles as one of the strongest forms of crowd control in the game. Turn an enemy into a cupcake, and you can save a squishy marksman from nearly any assassin or diver. She also has a decent slow, as well as a shield, since she can also pass picks onto an ally while simultaneously protecting them. Inarguably, however, Lulu's ultimate is one of the strongest forms of peel in the entire game. Not only provides health while knocking up nearby enemies, but the ability also grants a slowing aura. Now, this is one of those ultimates that I would personally call excessive, but a lot of Lulu's ability can also be used to either assist an allied frontliner or a backliner. So that kind of goes for her whole kit. She's one of the best enchanters in the game, and having to deal with her is always going to be troublesome. Even making a clean catch on a priority target is not enough. They're gonna get Lulu ulted, shielded, and if you're the one diving them, you're probably gonna get Summoner exhausted as well. Now, with Thresh nerfed, Leona is also a pick that you need to watch out for. She was already racking up bans, however, with another aggressive support receiving that nerf, Leona ends up stronger relatively. This especially helps in the Leona versus Thresh matchup, where Thresh Flay is crucial to keep her at bay. Leona is probably the most brutal support to play against when behind, and picking up early kills with her isn't really that hard either. I mean, after all, she just presses E and Q, and you're not only stunned, but you also have to deal with a nearly unkillable Titan that's constantly blocking you with her sword for 50 damage over and over again. And that's not even including her passive damage. Now after level 6, get hit by 1 E and you are stuck stunned until you're dead. All it takes for Leona to win games is to make that one crucial pick, and that's not something that you want to deal with when any one of your 4 teammates can randomly throw the game. Now for our last pick, similarly to Lulu, Yumi has also been popping off lately. Aggressive supports have been slowly receiving nerfs, while on the contrary, enchanters have been seeing nothing but buffs. Yumi is slowly creeping up and took the spot as the 4th most popular support last patch. Playing against Yumi is so frustrating, and that alone is probably enough to ban her. Be honest with yourself, you probably play worse when you're angry, and Yumi is one of the most rage-inducing champs in the game. It's not just her kit, it's the fact that she's just so dang slippery. Just like a little parasite, she can zoom on and off between various hosts on her team. While doing so, you can't directly target her, and she's free to provide an incredible amount of utility. Again, this makes the game much more difficult to play, and there's a good chance a teammate is going to screw up and get caught out by an enemy champion with a magical cat attached to them. Yumi, like Lulu, makes it difficult to take out your priority target as well. Even if you're communicating with your whole team and have a plan to dive the most important enemy team member, Yumi can still single-handedly stop you with a well-placed ultimate as well as her E. And that'll wrap up our most dangerous bans for patch 11.15. Hope you enjoyed the content. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And one final thing, I want to remind you that you can join our community Discord through the link in the description below. If you're looking for friends to play with or just people to chat League about, we got a huge active community and we'd love to have you join. But most importantly, everybody, remember to best of luck on the Rift, stay hydrated, and I'll see you in the next one.